Sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryamkaravavahai tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Vishwam Darpana Dishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyanatmani Mayaya Bahirivotbhutam Yatha Nidraya Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanam Evadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. So continue the teaching of Vedanta Shastra. The essence of the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and in fact the entire body of Sanatana Dharma, of Vedic teaching, is the message that you are not an incomplete, limited being as you take yourself to be. And to therefore a leading of a life to become more complete is filled with problems, and it is not going to resolve what you want. That's the only thing that you are doing, and we understand that, but it's not the right way to lead the life. So we'll go into that more detail today. You are in fact already what you want to be. You're complete. It's just that you are missing a couple of pieces that you don't know about. You're slightly confused about some aspect of yourself. Some aspect of yourself you are okay. There are other aspects of yourself that you are a bit confused about. And once that confusion is resolved, you in fact will reach your goal instantly. Not over a period of time as we think we now do. I'm working on things, I'm trying to do that, and then one day I will be happy. This is not the right path according to Vedanta Shastra. In other words, it is about the attainment of the already attained, praptasya praptihi, natu the attainment of not yet attained, apraptasya praptihi. So this is what we have seen. Now, this method, this way of looking at Vedanta Shastra is reflected in the analysis of the Purushartha that we are familiar with. What is the meaning of Purushartha? Means Purushanam arthyate iti Purushartha. One which is desired by all people. Here Purusha doesn't mean male only. All people, every living being, especially the human living being. So, regardless of who we are, no differences in gender, ethnicity, nationality, time. It's not as though at one time people were looking at different things in the future people will desire something else. No. Every time there is a person born into this universe, he or she is guided by these 4 steps of Purushartha, which we are familiar with: Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. So let us analyze each one of these 4 parts and to gain an insight into what is it that I'm missing. The whole discussion primarily is not what the Shastra is telling us to do, but what am I missing that will complete the picture for myself. This is what the Vichara, Atma Vichara is that we are doing. Okay, here let us start with the word moksha. So Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. We have looked at the word moksha. What does the moksha really mean by the meaning of the word, and how do we see that happening in our life? So let's do that analysis. Okay, first of all, the word moksha comes from the dhatu, from the verbal root called much, from where the third person is used, muchyate. Much means to release. To release. Like, for example, if you're bound by something, like, if there is a accused criminal who has been bound by handcuffs, and if the judge orders the handcuffs to be removed, then that is a release. Similarly, in our life also, this is exactly what is happening in our life. We are desirous of moksha every second in our life. How? What do we mean by that? So the moksha is not desired by a few, it is desired by all at all times in their lives. Moksha means a release from problems, an escape from problems. Now we can see that everyone is beset by problems at every minute of their lives, and we don't like it, and we want to gain a release from whatever binds us. For example, people want to have a release from poverty. People want to have a release from insignificance, from inattention, from physical problems, from loneliness. The list goes endlessly. We all have all these things occurring sometimes in our lives, sometimes often in our lives. And the sense is that I don't want that. I don't want the problems of old age. I don't want problems of diseases. I don't want problems of not having friends. I don't want it. I want to release from it. And we work at it, right? We have a way of adopting to a certain extent in such a way that we are not bound by whatever problems that beset us. Okay? Now, so here we can see the 4 different types of Purushartha. The number 1 is Artha. Artha means security of some kind or the other. So, for example, Uh, money. Money is a very important source of security. And so we want moksha from the limitations of money. And whatever money we get, we want to keep as close to us as possible. Just having a money in a distant bank account that I cannot access is not very pleasing to me. I want money in my wallet, in my purse, and if not, then a credit card, and also something in the bank that I can quickly go in. We want to keep close to us. So this is a very interesting notion that Swami Akhilananda is analyzing. He's saying that the word moksha means keeping away the limitations of something or the other and keeping the freedom from it as close to us as possible. This is why when we make some money and we buy some ornaments or something, we keep it safe, close to us that we can get anytime. So this sense of closeness is an important one. We want it to be close to us, accessible to us. Same thing with food. We want, especially in cases where there is a scarcity of something food. For those of people that eat eggs, for example, this is a big problem. The prices of eggs have gone up. So people want to buy lots of eggs and keep them close to them in their refrigerator. So the food is also a security. Similarly, what happens is that we live in an earthquake country, and all the wise people say that you should keep a earthquake-prone set of food and other items and keep it close to you in the house itself, because you never know what might happen. So this is one thing. Now compared to artha, especially once we have attained some semblance of closeness with the artha, next comes kama. Kama is closer to us than artha. And what it means is, we don't want to be alone. Kama can be looked at in different ways, but here the idea is we want to have human company. This is why we get married. This is why we have children. This is why we have friends. And we want all of these friends and family members to be close to us. We don't want it to be far. So compared to the house and money, the people that I am living with are closer to me in my heart. Okay? Let's go further. Next step is artha, kama, dharma. And dharma here means a mind that I am comfortable with, that I like. It's a peaceful mind. I am resolved in it. And so anytime that I do a dharmic action, it feels good to me, because otherwise the mind raises questions to me that I cannot answer and tolerate. Did you help somebody? Why were you getting angry at someone? All these are things that create a sense of division in me And I don't like that. And so the sense of dharma is even closer to me. You know why it is closer to me? Because the money and the house is, I can get rid of any time. It's farther from me. People that I am associated with, spouses, children, are a lot closer to me. They may have a lot of value to me. Even more than that is my own mind. Because even in the case of people, they can be separated from me. There are periods where I just had dinner with somebody, a distant family member who got divorced, Indian couple after years of marriage, and he's getting readjusted to it, and so now his spouse that he was married to for a long time is gone. He's already single, and so the people that you are close to can go away, but the mind, this is the point I was getting to it. The mind is a companion that I am very, very close to. It's all very, very much associated with me. And there's no way I can ever get rid of the mind. The only time I get rid of the mind is in deep sleep. And I don't consciously get away from it, but it just happens. But in my dream and in waking state, the mind is clinging to me. I'm stuck with it, for better or for worse. And so if that's the case, if I'm stuck with it, it affects me more than other things, doesn't it? If I have a mind which is not peaceful, for whatever reason, conflicts, emotional upheavals, whatever, and the list is very long, greed, competition, whatever the reason is, but if the effect of those items is to create in me a mind which is not acceptable to me, then I have a problem. So in that sense, as we become older and wiser, with the help of others' wisdom, I become more acceptable to myself in terms of my helping others, of helping myself, becoming better. I gave you this example before. This came late in my life. I didn't really realize that we pray to Ganapati, Ganesha. And all my life we were told Ganesha is, you pray to Ganesha to remove the obstacles in your life. Because obstacles in your life create a problem and you need the help of a higher power. And so Ganesha is the symbol of the higher power that removes your obstacles. This was clear to us for a long time, and this is how we were doing it. It didn't dawn on me until relatively late that Ganesha actually stands for two things, not just one. It's not clear which one is more important. In fact, it is clear that the second one is more important than the removal of obstacles, which is to give you wisdom. And it wasn't really until I started reading Swami Maheshananji's works and Swami Akhandanandaji's works that this dawned on me. And I again forget which of the two Swamis had actually made that clear to me. Clearer to me, if not completely clear, but a lot clearer, is the following. They said that a lot of our obstacles in our life that we are faced with and we are bothered by is because of our own lack of wisdom. Own lack of wisdom means what? Own lack of wisdom means that we desire things that we don't deserve. I still remember, this is so interesting. I had a college friend whose parents and my parents actually were friends long before we were college classmates. So we used to play and get together socially once in a while in Bihar. But it so happened that both of us were admitted to the same engineering college and we became classmates. And so he and I became better friends. He once told me that my mother always says this to me: don't desire anything until you deserve it. Try not to desire, not saying don't, because you cannot, desires appear naturally in our mind. We cannot command desires. Like Swami Dayananda used to say, you cannot have a desire for anger. So he says, all right, I have a lesson for all of you sitting there. Please develop a desire for anger. Right now. Yes, everybody. Try it. It doesn't happen. So the desire bounces upon us unexpectedly. This is the very nature of desire. So the lesson of Arun Bhatnagar, that was his name, Arun Bhatnagar. He's still, I've recently been in touch with him about a couple of years back. He's in India. Arun Bhatnagar. So Arun Bhatnagar's mother, whose name I don't remember, Mrs. Bhatnagar, Auntie Bhatnagar, didn't say that do not ever desire something, because you cannot desire anything without it surprising you. What it means is, this is also a very important thing, by the way, and I think all the Vedanta acharyas, Swami Dayananda used to talk about this a lot, and Swami Akhandananda also talks a lot about it, which is interesting. And let me take a small detour on this fact about deserving and Ganapati. I'll come back to it. I haven't finished doing that. So Swami Dayananda used to say, and Swami Akhandananda also says exactly the same thing. Beautiful. He says, you cannot avoid thoughts coming into your mind. You cannot do that. You just watch the play of development of different thoughts during the day in your life, and you will discover they all come from different directions. All of a sudden, they pop up. Some from way back when, from just like now about Arun Bhatnagar. Of course, now I was going to do this an example, and so that came up rather deliberately. But those kinds of things happen all the time. So you cannot avoid that. What you can do is to decide which of the thoughts you want to run with and which ones you just want to let go and discard. That is up to you. I remember this so well. Swami Dayanandaji gave this example because when we were at Piercy, my older son Sanjay was 10 years old, and soon he was going to go to middle school and college and so on and so forth. High school, sorry, not college, high school. And Swami Dayanandaji gave that advice to both to him and to me as his parent. He says, especially in high school, when you go to high school, you don't know what kind of people you're going to meet, what their background is, what their thoughts are, and indeed, you're going to see some people from very stable families, well looked after, nice personalities, and some that are very suspect. They may even may experiment with drugs. So I remember he's talking to the children at Piercy, and my son was the oldest out of the 4 or 5 of them, is that you cannot avoid meeting people in a high school or in any school that are sitting right next to you. You can't be done. You don't have the choice. But you know what? What you can do, what's under your control, is that you don't have to keep their company. If you suspect somebody is less than what you want it to be, please make an excuse not to spend time with them. Just say, something came up, I'm very busy, I can't do that. Oh, I have to go home now. Something or the other. Give a clear signal to them. Very good advice. So Swami Dayanandaji also said that really desires are going to come up all the way at any time randomly. You cannot avoid that. What you can do, and you should do, is to be cognizant about your buddhi. That buddhi should give you the discrimination. This is not the kind of thought that I want to keep. Because thoughts will entice you to entertain. And you have a complete choice of either rejecting it or adopting it. So back to the example of Ganapati. It took me a while to understand. And I think it was more Swami Maheshanandaji that gave that advice. If I recall, it could be Swami Akhandananda. It was after Swami Dayananda. This is more recent. What they said was, you can pray to Ganesha to remove your obstacles. There's no harm in doing that. Try it anyway. That's fine. It will have some effect. Any prayer that you do cannot go without results. They have to really look at to see how persistent you are, how loyal you are, how deserving you are, and all of that. So there's a lot of factors that go in before it becomes effective. But for you to pray to remove my obstacles is very, very appropriate. Go there. Much more important than that is the developing the wisdoms. Tell Ganesha, I want to become wiser. Wiser in what way? Wiser in such a way that my expectations about life are more mature. I didn't lose my temper because something didn't happen to me, because you were perhaps not reasonable in asking for the things to happen or not happen to you. But as you become older, and especially this advice is extremely important for a Vedantic student. You know why? Just think about it. There's something unique about this message to a student of Vedanta. Just think about it for a minute. It specially applies to a Vedantic student, this kind of advice, because a Vedantic student, I don't understand what Vedantic student, a student of Vedanta, student of Shastra, should know, if he or she already doesn't know, I am okay the way I am. You might say, perhaps, if you are still not quite there yet, I am supposed to be okay the way I am. I still don't get it. But at least you have the Shraddha that I am okay. And as you develop an understanding, you begin to accept yourself as something wonderful. And for that reason, even more so for others that may not have the wisdom of that, it is important for you and I to become wiser in choosing our desires, our goals. Why? Because this is the whole question about Vairagya and Viveka. By the way, Swami Akhandananda makes this point on, we're talking about Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha, the Purushartha. Amazing thing he said. He said, which of the two is truer, is more correct? Should you develop Artha, Kama? No. Should you develop Viveka, Vairagya and Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam? This is the Sadhana Chatushtaya, right? You all know this by now. Sadhana Chatushtaya is Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, Shama, Dhamma, Uparama, Titiksha, Samadhanam, and Shraddha. Then comes Mumukshutvam, Moksha Ichu. These are the sadhana. So they say sadhana chatushtaya, there are actually 10 of them, not 4 of them. So this is a well-known thing that for a sadhaka who wants to improve their minds, these are the well-known methods of going forward. Okay, out of this, which one is more, which comes first, which comes second? Two choices. Obviously, what I want to do is to have vairagya towards life. Vairagya means that I don't take things that seriously as I need to, as I needed to. You know, I just saw this. It's so wonderful to watch the young kids. That's why I was just telling my wife and some other people that having grandchildren is a great reminder about human behavior. Something just occurred to me. So the other day, we were visiting our son and daughter-in-law in San Francisco, and it was a day before the occasion of my granddaughter, Sonia, who turned 4 yesterday. But we went to see them a day before. We brought some presents for the kids and so on. And we were playing with them. And everything was just going beautifully. Kids were happy, they were jumping upside down, this, that, or the other, jumping on us. Beautiful. Suddenly, Sonia saw some pictures on her mother's iPhone that she started looking at. She started looking at this. Okay, and she was just absorbed in that. Arjun, who is not yet 2, and he copies his sister a lot, wanted to snatch the iPhone from her so that he could also look at some pictures. And she, of course, said, "No way. I'm looking at pictures, let me have it." Why I really admired it. How quickly Arjun's mood changed from happy-go-lucky, playing, smiling, laughing, interacting with us, chewing on some chips, to suddenly saying, "I need to have this phone." What he did was, my son is actually teaching him a lot of golf swings and so on. And he has a video of some kids playing golf. And he loves that video. So he snatched the phone and he wanted to see the video. And of course, my daughter-in-law, Pratima, said, no, let her have it because she's watching the phone. You cannot snatch it away from her. Lost it. 1 minute he was laughing and so on. The next minute he was crying on the floor, rolling back and forth with tears streaming. All from the fact that he could not get the iPhone to watch this screen, to have some screen time. So this is this is exactly what our life should teach us. That it does not take much for us to develop certain desires that are unreasonable, hurtful, harmful, unreachable. So our prayers to Ganesha should be, if not, please give me the wisdom to go after the desires that I truly deserve, that are useful to me. And you know what happens? This is what Swami Maheshananji and Akhandanandaji both said. Again, I'm not sure which one, but I think it was Swami Maheshanji. He said, you will see that older, wiser people become much more peaceful and happy because their obstacles don't come to them as often, because they don't allow unreasonable obstacles to enter into their lives. What a great advice. I'll tell you, if you don't if you don't make any other progress, which I think you will, I'm not saying you won't, but if you were to stop right now and just learn the wisdom of this advice, your life would have been worth it. And hidden on this is a lot. And then I would like to now complete that thought. I've had about 3 or 4 different layers of interruptions, right? So to complete that thought, for a student of Vedanta, Vairagya comes first, and then the purity of the mind comes later. So remember, I had kind of posed this question and never really completed that. And that was, should Vairagya come first, or should Shamadama, Uparama, Titiksha, etc. come first? Which one should come first? You can think about that in your life, in your mind. Swamiji says, Vairagya should come first. So this is a very interesting point, worth thinking about, because one can raise the question, how can I have Vairagya unless I have just a second, my son is calling. Just one second. Something funny, because he knows that I'm teaching a class, he's not supposed to call me, and yet he called me. So I thought that voice didn't answer it, but now he's not answering, so we'll see. So which one should come first? So it's a reasonable rejoinder by you that unless I know that things are not real, I cannot have Vairagya. And in fact, what my question is, should Vairagya come first, or should the sense that this is not real come first? The normal answer would be that unless the things become clear that these are not real, I cannot have Vairagya. So they should come first. Swami Akhandananda has repeatedly said Vairagya should come first. But how? How can Vairagya come first? So what is being said is that until you have the resolve, this is what Swami Dayanandaji used to say, which needs to be understood, fake it until you make it. So it should not be, this is not literally true that you fake it. You don't tell everybody, I know I'm a jnani and I know a lot and this. That's not the point. The point is, it's kind of like learning how to ride a bike. Unless you get on the bike and you repeat to yourself that I will very soon learn. I haven't learned it yet. I still need help to carry, but everybody else is doing it. It's not rocket science, and it will happen, but let me get on the bike. But to say that things have to become unreal before I have Vairagya is like saying, I cannot get on the bike because I may fall. So that was the point about the Vairagya. Okay, so let's now go back to the mainstream of what we were doing. So what we saw was that in the trying to lead my life, I come across the tendency of artha, kama, and dharma, and I want to keep it very close to me. This is our mainstream that we thought. We went over some other areas to talk about. Okay? It's okay. So now comes the fourth one, which is what we started one, which is moksha. So what we can say now in summarizing what we have done so far is that everyone wants moksha all the time at all periods, in all periods of time and place. Everyone. We are desirous, we don't say that I am doing moksha, but anytime I want to avoid getting into a problem, I want to release the hold it has on me, I'm trying to gain moksha. And we know this for a fact, that there are closer and closer and closer stages of things for my moksha. Ultimately, it comes to the real moksha. Because until then, the closest thing that I got was my mind. Right? We saw goods, then people, then my mind. And so there we say the mind is an example of dharma. And so I have all these kinds of things. So dharma is the most that I can do at this point in time with my mind. Has that reached the self yet? No. Because dharma is close to me. It's the closest to me, but it's not me. It's very obvious, even grammatically we can say that's very close to me. So it doesn't mean that that's me. What me is different from what's close to me. Right? So that's not me. So the question is, what is closer than the closest to me? What is me? What is I? So there, the teaching says, I have a lot of confusion with respect to myself. And the way this confusion expresses itself is that I am mixing myself up with the state of my mind. This is important to see. I am mixed up with my reflection, so to speak. Could be seen as that I see my reflection, and as the reflection is, I see myself as that reflection. This is a very famous example in Vedanta, that if you were to see your reflection in a blemishless mirror, clean mirror, steady mirror, well polished, beautiful mirror. Even there you cannot see a complete picture of yourself. You know why you cannot? Because you can only see the front parts of your body, not the side parts of your body, certainly not the back side of your body. You only have a two-dimensional picture of yourself, not a three-dimensional picture. But okay, let's forget about that. At least you have a clean picture. But what if you are seeing yourself in mirrors that are highly defective, or they are distorted, they are concave, they are convex, and you can never see an accurate, you cannot see a clean mirror, ever. I remember when we were growing up in India, having a nice clean mirror was rare. It was very expensive. I distinctly remember that all you could get was something that was spotty and not very clean, even the new ones. They used to say that mirrors used to come from Belgium. And only some very rich people, if you ever go and visit them, they'll say, oh, I have a Belgian mirror. Most people could not, including ourselves, we could not afford it. So it's like saying your reflection and in the case of a mind, it is highly distorted. Highly distorted. So you know what? That is what it is. It's the closest thing to as I see myself is through my mind. And here, the Acharyas point out a very interesting feature. They said, in my confusion of who I am, I look at the closest thing to me and adopt its state to be myself. So what happens is, if my mind is unhappy, I am unhappy. If my mind is pleased, I am pleased. Just look at our situation. I don't evaluate myself independently. I only evaluate it through the state of my mind. And unfortunately, the state of my mind has a lot of contributing factors. There is a lot going on. There's a lot of memories. There are lots of vasanas, lots of fears, regrets, some satisfaction, concern, jealousy. It's a jungle. You can imagine how my evaluation is affected by the jungle of my mind. Here, another thing that Swami Akhandanandaji points out is the following. He gave a very beautiful, interesting, not a beautiful, but a kind of a sad example, really, not a beautiful, it's a sad example. Beautiful in the sense that it's very instructive. He ran out of battery, so it doesn't show me. It's 8:56. Swami Akhandananda points out that one time he was staying with a very rich person near Benares. And I tell you, the name of the town that he's pointed out is known to me because my mother's Mamaji, the name of the town is Bhadohi. You can look that up, Bhado, Bhadohi. And it's a suburb of Benares, which is famous for carpet making, interestingly enough. Because my mother's Mamaji, maternal uncle, my grandmother's younger brother, was a big carpet manufacturer. And we used to go visit him every now and then, and he would show us the factory and how the people weave the carpets and how he sells it. I still remember all that. This was the town of Bhadohi. Just incidental, has nothing to do with Swami Akhandananda's. So one time Swami Akhandananda was saying in one of his books, he was staying with a very rich person who was like my mother's Mamaji, kind of a mill owner, and perhaps much richer. And while he was staying with him for a few days, he noticed something very funny. He had a domestic helper who, instead of being very polite to him, to his master, was somewhat rude to him, and often would give him some, saying, no, you shouldn't have done this. This is not right. And the Sethji, this rich person, sometimes will say, okay, all right, fine, we'll do that. So Swami Akhandananda says, I was observing this chemistry, which seemed very strange to me. How come a domestic servant is kind of becoming like a boss of this person, telling him what to do, and he's rude? So in a quiet moment, he confronted him. I don't know whether he gave the name of the person, probably not. But he said, hey, tell me, I've noticed this, that this guy, he's kind of bossing you around. Why is that? I don't understand that. So the person said, Swamiji, you are very wise in noticing that. There is a reason for it. The reason is this guy knows a lot of my bad habits. And it turns out that he was telling Swamiji that I drink a lot, and sometimes I even allow some prostitutes to come to my home, or I go to the home of the prostitutes. And he's the one who arranges for all this. My wife also doesn't know. And I have to go along with whatever he says. Swamiji says, I was so shocked and amazed by what's happening. And he gave this example when he described the state of our minds. And he says it's very interesting. If you look at the mind, it's bossing me. Not always, not for everybody, but most of the time, it bosses you. I think we should do this. And you feel, no, I don't know. No, we've got to do that. This movie is only going to run only for the next 2 days. Well, I don't want to watch movies. No, I think it's a great movie. I think everybody's talking about it. Remember on the party they were doing it and they said, you haven't seen it yet, it's only 2 more days. Let's go see it right now. You'll say, okay. Let's have a drink. No, I don't want to really have it. Come on, it's okay. You have a drink. It tells you what to do, pretty much like a domestic servant. Swamiji says, if this is not bad enough, think about this another thing. In a traditional Indian marriage, the West is all different. It's all very different, very modern, strange. But in the traditional Indian marriage, it used to be that the man was the dominant person and the woman followed him to a certain extent, to a large extent. He was the more powerful one. And in the old days, he used to bring in more money and was doing the business and so on and so forth. Now things have changed for the good, for the better. They are more equal. But in general, there is a kind of a relationship between a man and a woman. So this is what is called pati and patni. Pati means a husband, patni means a wife. So Swamiji says, if you really analyze it, there are 2 people. One is you, and the other one is your mind. Do that viveka. Right now you're kind of mixed up. This is what the whole issue is. There is a complete mix-up. Am I the mind? Am I separate? You say, I don't think so. So you know that I am thinking. I'm different from my thoughts. All those kinds of things have to be done. But for purposes of our depiction of our life, just consider this. There is you and there's your mind. And your mind is acting like your husband. You are the wife. And the behavior of the husband is very strange. It's all from Swami Makhinananda, please. I'm not saying this. I'm also just listening to him, watching him, seeing how he evolved. Very, very, very wise, very useful in the way to look at things. He says, just look at the behavior of the mind. How during the night, it clings you, embraces you, and you sleep quietly and peacefully. It almost like doesn't raise any objections. There's no conflicts. Everything is all okay. This is the husband, which is the mind. Regardless of whether we are males or females, that doesn't make any difference. It's more like the self which is acting meekly and a mind which is acting bossfully in that relationship. So at night time, the mind comes to sleep with you, embraces you, and you sleep peacefully. As soon as the day breaks, the mind leaves you and starts wandering around. In fact, this is what the first verse of that 6 verses that we did, Shiva Sankalpa Sutra, very first verse, this is exactly what is talked about. Yat jagrato duram udaiti nityam, something like that. Yat jagrataha duram udaiti. So the mind, as soon as the day breaks, starts to look wandering around. Swamiji says, so much so, during the entire day, it does not even look at you. Leave aside not having your company, it completely abandons you and moves around with strangers. And if we can say, with prostitutes. People that want to give you some pleasure for a short time for a price. And you never challenge it. What kind of a husband do you have? Why do you tolerate that person? It's very strange. That's exactly for the first verse of Shiva Sankalpa Sukta is. You can go back and read it again. It wanders all day long. I want to do this. This would be fun to do. Hey, how about me? Oh, I know you're there. It's okay. I'll look at it you did later. Exactly the same situation. What an insight. And then at night time, when it gets tired, when you are ready to go to sleep, it clings to you. The moment it has a chance, it abandons you. So this is the confusion. And this confusion is the one that prevents you from ever discovering not only what is closest to you, but who you are. Because it's only when you can explain your own beauty to this person, your value, your loveliness, your tolerance, your magnanimity, how beautiful you are, how kind you are. If you can only show that to the mind, it would stop wandering around. So we will take up this topic in the next class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.